The Switch is simply amazing. Having a portable/home console hybrid is the stuff of dreams. Nintendo's execution on this console is nothing but stellar. The game selection is amazing, and the controller options are fantastic. But not all things are being praised on the Switch. There's one thing Nintendo gets criticized for: their online service. There's no denying that it's not on par with the other two gaming powerhouses. You would think that Nintendo would be on top of the competition when it comes to playing online. They are the longest surviving gaming company still making consoles. As I primarily only play single-player games, I can't detail how the online multiplayer experience is, but I can give my insight on the other aspects of the online service. The cloud saves are great for the games that support it. I own 2 Switch consoles, so having those saves transfer over to the new console is a must. I however wish it was like the 3DS where the game saves to the cartridge, but I understand that the future is taking a step back by adding extra steps to the saving process. The online service also adds retro NES and SNES titles. The selection is very limited. We're not getting the full gamut of titles that we're used to seeing from Nintendo. The Wii U and especially the Wii had a wide range of titles that you could pick and choose from individually. With the online Switch service, you can't choose which games are on your system. When you pay for the service, you get the games. Now here's the real question: how good do these games play? But first, a little history. The Super Nintendo is probably my favorite console ever made. Definitely the console that holds the most sentimental value to me. It was the first console that was mine. My older brothers couldn't kick me off it because I got it for my birthday. And as you know, older brothers like to be the boss. When it came to the SNES in our house, I was the king. I put so much time into that gray box. The look is classic. Some people hate this design with all their beings, but for me, I take this over the Super Famicom design any day. Don't get me wrong, the Super Famicom is a beautifully designed console and is very easy on the eyes, but I have a soft spot for the boxy purple and violet. When it comes to playing the games that were made for the SNES, I've become very critical to how these games are presented. I'm no purist by any means, but when it comes to the Super Nintendo, the bar I've set is very high. Luckily, Nintendo has handled this very well over the years. The Wii's Virtual Console presented these games in their original resolution, which makes these games look great on a CRT over component cables. However, they don't look all that great on an HD TV. But SNES games on the Wii U Virtual Console look great. The pixels are sharp over HDMI. I remember playing these games for the first time on the Wii U. I was taken back at how they look. It's still a great option if you want a clean, high-resolution image. In 2017, the Super NES Classic was released. Who could forget the frenzy these little boxes stirred up? Even I stood in line for one. And I didn't wait in vain. I got one and wasn't disappointed. These games are output in 720p. The pixels are razor sharp. The game selection is top tier. Games like Mario World, Castlevania 4, Contra 3, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Donkey Kong Country, Super Metroid, Mega Man X, Earthbound for crying out loud, and the list goes on. The best part, it was only $80 at retail, which is an absolute bargain for what you get. Plus, this included 2 controllers that feel identical to the originals. Playing these games with original controllers is exactly how these games should ideally be played. 2 years later, the Switch's online service got Super Nintendo games. It launched with 21 titles. I'd say it was a decent lineup with games like Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Kart, F-Zero, Demon's Crest, Super Metroid, and A Link to the Past, among others. They also offered a wireless Super Nintendo controller you could buy, which added authenticity to the gameplay. I actually really like this controller. It feels really nice and is so very close to the original. It's a touch I wish we could have had during the Wii and Wii U eras. Well, Japan had one available as far back as 2008 or 9. They offered it through Club Nintendo. Unless you imported one, we in the West had to wait until the Super NES Classic was released to have the luxury of playing our Virtual Console games with official controllers. The Switch controller has added L and R buttons on the top of it, which, when used, engage the rewind feature and open the menus. It has a USB-C port on the top that is used to charge the internal battery. All in all, it's a very good controller that I happily jumped on when it was available. There are also 4 save states that you can use to save your progress. Nintendo also added a rewind feature that I don't use too much, but I can see how it could come in handy for those who aren't too familiar with these games. The menus for the online service games are nicely organized. They feature flat images of the box art that I think look pleasing. The games run beautifully. The graphics look as nice as you would expect. The games output in 1080p, making the pixels look razor sharp. Nintendo didn't just plop these games onto the Switch without any thought. They gave us a few display options that I think will make most people happy. They have an option for a pixel perfect output. This makes all the pixels a uniform square, which looks fantastic on modern HD TVs. This means when the game is scrolling, the TV also has to display square pixels. Of course, this will make the image a little skinny if you're used to a 4:3 aspect ratio, though this doesn't take long to get used to if this is how you choose to play. However, there is a better option. Because these games were designed for a 4:3 aspect ratio, there's an option for it. This would normally pose a problem with how the games would look, but Nintendo remedied this with the Super NES Classic Edition. They implemented interpolation to those games. Well, they added it to these games as well. Because Super Nintendo games were designed for this, and were expected to be displayed on this, the 4:3 aspect ratio didn't display perfectly square pixels. Some pixels were a little longer. This isn't a problem for a CRT TV, but it is a problem for a modern HD TV. When you play older games, these ununiform pixels stretch and retract, creating a sort of shimmer that can be bothersome to many. With interpolation, from what I understand, softens the pixels on the horizontal axis, which remedies the shimmer. There's another mode Nintendo added. You can also put on a CRT filter. I tested this out a few times and honestly, I think I like it. This actually does look like an old CRT TV. It even has the rainbow edges the old TVs displayed. It's fun to see how these would have looked playing them in the 90s. I like seeing these games the way I originally played them. These games look amazing. The 4:3 mode is absolutely the way I choose to play them. You get to play them in the original aspect ratio with the sharp pixel edges. I've played through many of the games that are offered and I haven't been disappointed yet. There are a few things that I'm not in love with. For one, I don't like this border. Why in the world isn't there an option for an all-black border? This gradient isn't too distracting, but I would like an option to turn it off. Also, I really don't like this. The first trip I took with my Switch Lite, I wasn't able to check in, so I was out of luck when it came to playing the retro titles. With my 3DS, this was never a problem. I bought the games I wanted and I had access to them 24 hours a day. I really wish they weren't exclusive to the online service. I would rather have the virtual console where I could pick and choose games individually. Another thing I've heard from many people is the game selection. Some people think that it's lackluster. You've got to remember, most of these games have been available to play for many years across many different systems. The Wii, Wii U, 3DS, and the Super NES Classic Edition. Having been playing these games for years, of course they would seem a little redundant and tired. I think I'm on the other side of this. I love these games and I always have. Having them on a home console/portable handheld is a dream come true, but I will admit that the selection is very limited. Where in the heck are the Donkey Kong Country games? Any of them. Nintendo could easily add any of the three, because they own them. Also, where is Super Mario All-Stars? That one would be so easy to add. Again, Nintendo owns all those games. It seems like the retro titles are just an afterthought for the online service, an added bonus to what you're actually paying for. Although there are some, including me, who pay for the service for the retro games. Having an all-encompassing home handheld console that can play current and past classics is something I never thought we'd actually get. And here we are, getting a small taste of what could truly be great. If Nintendo doesn't roll out more games more often, I don't think that the online service will be a draw to grab more people to pay for it. If you're looking for a retro gaming machine, I would say you should look at something like the Super NES Classic. This little emulation box is great if you want to play some of the very best the Super Nintendo has. It's also pretty close to an authentic experience with the included controllers. The price is amazing for all this. At retail, it was only $80. There is no way you could get all the games plus the controllers, plus a way to play them so clearly on a modern HD TV for $80. Another option is the Wii U. The Virtual Console on the Wii U has an awesome selection of games available, and you only have to pay for what you want to play. Having the ability to personally curate a custom library of games is awesome. You'll also have access to buy games from other systems like the NES, N64, Game Boy Advance, and DS. An added bonus is that you can buy current Switch ports at dirt cheap prices. I've always said that the Wii U's game library is one of the very best. The Super Nintendo games available with the online service fee are wonderful to have. They look fantastic on modern TVs and control pretty much how you remember. If Nintendo would roll out more titles on a regular schedule, that would be a reason for most of all Switch owners to pay for the service. I'd also like to see an option to change the border. The Switch is simply amazing. Having a portable/home console hybrid is a dream that's come true. Let's keep hoping that we'll get more legacy titles to enjoy with everything else it brings to the table.